The establishment of this technocracy being foisted upon the world relies upon the fundamental acceptance of a humanistic religious worldview, fueled by a transhumanist dream.
My name is Bryan Johnson, and I would like to put a chip in your brain. Now, I know that may sound a little sci-fi, that's probably what you're thinking, but hopefully you'll change your opinion in a few minutes. I grew up in a deeply religious family, and in that world, I was told there was someone in charge. So if someone died, it was a personal setback or a war, it was all going to be okay. Someone was in control. When I left my religion in my adult life, and I concluded there was in fact no one in charge, that it was my fellow humans who were in charge. In fact, 7 billion plus humans. And that any ambition I had in life, any pleasant future that I imagined, was contingent upon the successful cooperation of these humans. So I quickly scanned all the knowledge I had about every human interaction I've ever had, of history, past and present, and I thought to myself, oh shit. When it comes to your ambitions, the big plans you have in life, the things you care about the most, we don't have the luxury of time to contemplate our cognitive evolution. We don't have the power to make in-groups 8 billion strong. Technology is progressing at an increasingly faster pace. AI and automation are increasingly taking human jobs, which we will need to retrain people and give them a new sense of purpose and meaning in society. We are in danger of being blindsided by risk, and we are living in a world that we increasingly cannot predict. We are simply overwhelmed. When I look at this problem set, I can't conclude anything other than we must upgrade the human operating system. So when people say to me they think I'm crazy for what I'm trying to do, I would say I would be crazy not to.
For the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? Hath not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? For after that in the wisdom of God the world by wisdom knew not God, it pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe.
So now as we contemplate the next great frontier of human aspiration, if the 20th century was about learning how to read and write biology and going to the moon, what are the most ambitious things we could imagine as a species in the 21st century? I would argue it's inside our brain. Yet it's hard to imagine the things we can't see. So in order to do this, let's play a game of what if. Let's imagine that we have chips implanted in our brain, that we can read and write neural code at a fashion that gives us the ability to do a bunch of things. So what if we could walk a mile in someone else's mind? What if we could feel the ocean, the forest, and the honeybees? What if we could live history instead of reading it? What if we could conceive of 4 and 20-dimensional shapes? What if we could, instead of destroying our enemies, we destroy the concept of enemies? What if we could be more kind, empathetic, and compassionate? What if we could communicate telepathically with a new language that is 100 times richer in conveying thought, emotion, and experience? What if we could internally channel the genius of a writer, scientist, or artist? What if we could eliminate cognitive biases, compulsive behavior, and destructive tendencies? What if Trump could tweet directly from his brain? Imagine the number of confifis we would have on the interwebs.
For the Jews require a sign, and the Greeks seek after wisdom. But we preach Christ crucified, unto the Jews a stumbling block, and unto the Greeks foolishness. But unto them which are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. Because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men.
I am consumed with the question of what may exist that I cannot taste, touch, feel, smell, imagine, experience, and become.
¿Cómo estás, everybody? How's it going? I pray you are well. I'm doing all right, I suppose. Been in a rather strange state of mind, I guess, which I could only describe as sort of bewilderment at this point, and perhaps just overall fatigue, I suppose, of, so many things. Interactions with friends and family and strangers in public and all the rest, just like I'm sure all of you at this point, where in some ways you're just sick of looking at it and reading about it and talking about it all together, but also sick of being silent and being inundated with all the propaganda, not just the propaganda from the mainstream media, which I'm guessing most of us are not consuming ourselves, but paying attention to see what the world is just constantly continuing to believe in all the contradictions. And it's a crazy time right now, obviously. And so a brother sent me a link to this video a couple weeks ago, basically saying, like, have you ever heard of this guy, this Bryan Johnson? And no, neither one of us had. And so he gave this talk a couple years ago at some tech conference thing. And he's basically a competitor to Neuralink at this point, and has a very similar story to Elon Musk, actually, even though he's just not quite on the same scale. But he made a bunch of money selling a company that was bought by PayPal or something. It was like a payment processing software tech company. And so he sunk basically all of the proceeds of that sale, like $100 million, into this company called Kernel. And 2 years ago, he's, just getting up on stage talking about, I want to put a chip in your brain. But apparently now they're trying to work on some product. They're still going, and from everything I can tell, of course, they haven't been putting out a ton of stuff since this year, promotional materials, but now they're working on something that's like a non-invasive, like a helmet or some kind of thing that just reads your brainwaves and does all these things. But it was an amazing presentation that he gave a couple years ago, in that it essentially amounts to just a big evangelistic message for transhumanism. And I don't think that needs a lot of explanation at this point. But I was really fascinated by what he said in the part where he talks about growing up in a religious family. In his case, it was Mormonism, actually, but he just speaks in general about the idea of that there was someone in charge, this like a God being. Obviously, the Mormon God is not the biblical God, but even just that idea of somebody in charge that's bigger and above us. But where he gets to the point of saying, once I came to the conclusion that there was no God, no one outside of humanity that was in charge, it was just us, just me and my fellow 8 billion humans who were in charge, and that anything good or noble that we're going to accomplish is contingent upon the successful cooperation of me and my fellow. I was like, that's humanism in a nutshell. You almost couldn't come up with a better, simple explanation that even a child could understand of what we're talking about when we say humanism. That it's just you and your fellow 8 billion humans in charge. And when you step back and look at it that way, I think you can also easily understand that that can be your pragmatic belief system, even if you do espouse a belief in a creator or a god, but if he's just out there, and ultimately if surviving, this pandemic or dealing with any of the number of existential threats that we are told humanity is facing, that we have to come together and collectively pool all our intelligence and knowledge and technology and overcome it in the name of safety, in the name of health, in the name of all sorts of things. And of course, not everyone is at that extreme level that he's talking about where we're going to put a chip in your brain and plug you into the matrix and you're going to have, basically an AI. We're going to upgrade the human operating system. That's what he says. We're going to merge with AI. And you'll be able to virtually tap into all kinds of metaphysical things that you can't even conceive of in your tangible physical life. I mean, that was kind of an amazing part to me, especially when you compare what he says there at the end, where he says, I am obsessed with everything that I cannot see, touch, taste, feel, imagine, experience, and become. Right? And yet in 1 Corinthians, where those bits in the intro were from 1 Corinthians chapter 1, which I'm sure verses that most of you know very, very well because they apply to so much that we've been talking about on this channel and also just about everything. But in chapter 2, let me pull it up. In chapter 2, where it says, And I, when I came to you, brothers, did not come proclaiming to you the testimony of God with lofty speech or wisdom, for I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. And I was with you in weakness and fear and much trembling, and my speech and my message were not in plausible words of wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and of power, so that your faith might not rest in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. Yet among the mature we do impart wisdom, although it is not a wisdom of this age or of the rulers of this age who are doomed to pass away. But we impart a secret and hidden wisdom of God, which God decreed before the ages for our glory. None of the rulers of this age understood this, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But, as it is written, What no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagined, what God has prepared for those who love him. These things God has revealed to us through the Spirit, for the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of God. And I was just kind of floored by the amazing parallel. He's literally taking almost that same concept, all the things that the human imagination can't even think up, that we're going to somehow attain that stuff through the development of brain interface technology and expanding our consciousnesses digitally. And once again, we're brought back to having to acknowledge that you have to call this what it is. This is a religion. It's not this separate neutral thing of science going on over here. That has nothing to do with your overall worldview and your beliefs about God and humanity and morality and all this stuff. They're completely inseparable. And interestingly enough, speaking of transhumanism and like techno-mysticism like we've been discussing, I found this other video of his. It was like a promotional video with more glittering transhumanist rhetoric.
Colonel is developing non-invasive brain interface technology that is able to read out your neural activity. So currently we can count our steps and our calories, we can sequence our genome, and we can quantify our sleep, but we have virtually no insight into our brain. Imagine if you had a dashboard at the end of the day that gave you your day's activities. How would that change our lives and our behaviors? Our brain tricks us into thinking that we are hyper logical and rational and consistent, and when the reality is the exact opposite. At work, for example, we're trying to make well-founded, well-reasoned decisions. The cognitive biases we have negatively affect that, and they compromise our ability to achieve the level of success we all desire. If we can read out what is really going on in our brain, conscious and subconscious, we now have the opportunity to reflect on how we're using our brains in ways we've never have before. The most exciting thing about brain interface technology is not the things that we can imagine being able to do. For example, can I text from my brain or can I communicate from my brain? It's what we can't imagine yet being able to do with brain interface technology. To me, humanity is like an 8 billion person orchestra. We're all trying to play our instruments and be in tune with each other. And I think one of the opportunities with brain interfaces is that it gives us the opportunity to create more harmony, more synchronization between us.
And then on this one shot right here, it's interesting because I was like, wait a minute. That chemical compound symbol looks kind of familiar, and sure enough, I'm pretty sure that he's got a tattoo on his arm of the DMT molecule. So Silicon Valley dude jettisons the idea of a god, even a Mormon god. Even though, interestingly enough, there actually are Mormon transhumanists, but never mind that. But no, he's completely embraced the New Age idea of apotheosis and transcendence, but through a technological approach. And a humanistic approach of, the successful cooperation of you and your fellow 8 billion humans.
And I, brethren, when I came to you, came not with excellency of speech or of wisdom, declaring unto you the testimony of God. For I determined not to know anything among you save Jesus Christ and him crucified. And I was with you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. And my speech and my preaching was not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and of power, that your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. Howbeit, we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor of the princes of this world that come to naught, but we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom which God ordained before the world unto our glory. But as it is written, Eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit. For the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of God. For what man knoweth the things of a man, save the spirit of man which is in him? Even so, the things of God knoweth no man, but the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit which is of God, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of God. Which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teacheth, but which the Holy Ghost teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. But he that is spiritual judgeth all things, yet he himself is judged of no man. For who hath known the mind of the Lord, that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ.